Gal. Okay. Barbara Huey, Germantown. Paul Dernberger, Hillsdale. Michael, I saw you here. Welcome. Mr. Simonson, Stan Yearing notified he won't be able to make it tonight. Bruce Schenker, Lebanon.
Bruce is here.
Okay, thank you. Dan,
The folks might not know that they would need to unmute themselves if they, in the icon on the bottom of their screen that says turn off or turn on microphone.
That's a good point, Michael. Dan Marcus. Dan Marcus, Stockport. Christian Swiningson, he had notified earlier. I thought possibly he might be here, but Anna Kadish, Iconic. Anna. Sarah, I see you're here.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I know I'm not officially a member yet because I haven't been.
Well, it won't be long.
Okay.
I've got the dates of the upcoming meetings, and I can email that to you so you know when to contact you for more information.
Okay, great. Are
there any other guests present?
David Newman from Ghent is on.
Okay. Thanks.
Maureen, I show 11 people attending.
Okay, let me see. 1, 2,
I have 12.
5, 6.
Or 12 rather,
12,
yeah, which probably includes Oswaldo.
Yeah, it might, and I might be included as well. I've got 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you are. You're on the screen.
And there's two phone numbers without names at the bottom.
Well, one of them is Ed, and I'm not
Okay.
sure about the one ending in 83.
I'm not sure. I only have 6 members.
Maureen,
Yes.
you have Terry Mayhew, right?
Yes, I have you down, but
Okay.
you're not a voting member. I was just counting the voting members.
Right. I just want to make sure I'm included though in the list.
Oh, you are for sure.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Nice to hear your voice.
Thank you. You too.
Can somebody hear me now?
Yeah.
Who's this?
This is Barbara Huey from Germantown.
Oh, good.
Can you?
Barbara.
Are you on a phone?
I'm on a phone. I'm unable to get on my computer. It won't work.
Okay.
And Steve Gavlik is complaining about not being able to unmute himself.
Yeah, it's difficult. I had to twist my thing several times. You have to like make yourself the center, and then you can unmute. You can't unmute directly from the listing.
No.
Yeah, so basically what you have to do is pick yourself, push it so you become center, and then the unmute button will be there.
There you go.
Okay, Steve, I've got you recorded.
Okay, I unplugged and plugged my mic back in. I don't have video, so unfortunately.
There's no video anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm not worried.
No.
I think Rick from Chatham is here.
Yeah.
8, that makes 8 voting members for a quorum, but we need 10.
And you got David Newman?
Yes, I do. I'll read the ones that I have. Colleen Lutz, Kara Humphrey, Rick Burvace, Barbara Huey, David Newman, Michael O'Hara, Ed Simonson, and Bruce Schenker.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds like a good group to me. Don't they have
Uh,
super votes?
No argument there.
Maureen, I'm Sarah Becker here. I can't, I'm on the public, on the YouTube. I couldn't get on the Google Meet from my browser at my computer at home. So just to let you know, I'm on the phone.
Sorry, who's this?
Tara Becker from the Health Department.
Oh, great. Hi, Tara. Couldn't
Hi.
understand it at first. It was a little muffled.
Oh, okay.
I've got you signed in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Sarah.
Can everybody tell me what browser you're using to access this meeting? Because it won't let me get on with my my browser.
Well,
Right.
I'm using
You
Chrome.
need to use Chrome.
Right. The trick is not the brand of browser, but the version of it. I went through this today in a work session with Ed. He had one of the three browsers that the application supports, but it wasn't the latest version. So
Okay.
we just had to update either Chrome or Firefox, or what's the name of the
IE.
Microsoft one?
IE.
Explorer.
Well, used to be called Explorer, but whatever the latest,
Oh, I thought it was just called IE, but I don't know.
well,
I checked
whatever it
Explorer.
is, but
Yeah.
the latest version of the Microsoft browser, you just have to go and update it. So where you get confronted with the mismatch there is when you try and log into Google Meet, it'll say
Right.
your browser isn't okay. And
Right.
at least the times that I looked at it, it says, here are three options for you. Download the latest version of those three browsers of one of them, and you'll be good to go. So that's really the trick, is just to have the latest version rather than, have to change what browser you're familiar with.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep trying that while we're doing this. Okay, it's not working. Well,
Well, we'll get good at this.
Just practice. That's all we need.
Yep. All right, shall we
Shall we begin?
start a meeting?
Sure.
You tell me.
Why not?
I think as many people are here as are going to, Ed. So would you like to say a few words as you had planned?
Yes. Yes, I would like to. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. This is certainly a new experience for many of us. But as we work through it, I think it will improve and it will become a really great asset to be able to communicate in this way. There's some people that I think I should thank. Oswaldo, certainly, Patrice, Maureen, Michael, certainly, Barry, and all you different members.
Ed,
Yes.
this is Terry. Before we get started, if people aren't speaking and they're online, could they please mute themselves? Because I'm hearing a lot of background noise.
Oh, okay. I don't. Okay. All right.
Great.
Please
Great tip.
mute, folks. Mute. So,
Thanks.
we all muted? I trust we are. Typically, we start the meeting with the chair's report, comments, or as I sent to each of you a revision. I really would like if you could bear with me and let me read this, because I think it deals with a lot of issues that I think lie before us. And current events certainly appears to demand that it is time to assess our future as it relates to Article 47, our posture and our dedication to environmental issues. Very frankly, is our voice a whisper in the wilderness? Do we shake trees? What is the climate smart strategy for the county? Is it time for regulatory agencies like the Health Department, New York State Department of Conservation, the EPA to be evaluated? What do we value most? What is the quality of standards of practice? Are technical science-based elements forthrightly incorporated in evaluations? These and other queries should light our path to a new, sustainable, clean future. Practice or perish, I suggest. Pablum or quality communities. That pretty much, I would hope some of these issues we get this addressed this evening or in the future. We do have some meeting notes or minutes, but I don't believe yet that we have a quorum to address those and vote in favor of them. Is that true, Maureen? I think
We have January and February. January is actual minutes. February is the meeting notes. But we can wait until the next meeting since we don't have a quorum. That would be fine.
that sounds good. Thank
There
you.
is one chat, Steve Gavlik, and I'm sorry, Steve, if I don't know if he's a member or not, but he's on the chat and he's saying that he can't unmute himself. I don't know if you got him earlier.
Yes, I've recorded that he's present.
Great, thank you.
But thanks for bringing that up.
But part of what I had included in the agenda were solar panels. As you go around the county, you see more and more solar panels, and certainly they are a great source of energy shy of fossil fuels or their impacts. I think at some point we should talk about that. Items B and C, very frankly, I'm at the point where, with respect to expanded polystyrene, for my part, I'll let it go. I'm not going to continue to. As important as it is to everybody, I think I'll bow out of that. However, certainly, Michael may wish to work with the Chamber of Commerce to help create a questionnaire to query the whole subject of expanded polystyrene. My personal view is it's not as big a deal as people like to make it out. So, any comments with respect to that? Okay, and I incorporate C in with that with respect to the plastic problems. Some of you have Googled me or emailed me with respect to some other videos with respect to the plastics problem. So I think we're getting a better view of the whole problem. There is a waste composting subcommittee. Do we have a report on that? Are there any of the members of that group here? I don't hear anything. No, I guess not. So I think we should move right in. Up.
And were you referring to the zero waste group? Is that what you're referring to? Or
No.
something else? Okay, all right.
I guess I couldn't even understand what was said then. But, okay. Well, so why don't we move right into the Good Earth Keeping Award that Terry worked so hard to do to try to identify those in our community that provides service to all by finding ways to improve or better our environment. So Terry, you want to take over and talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Thanks, Ed. And hopefully everyone received the email I sent out this morning. We did, fortunately, before we went into working remotely from home, we did receive 2 nominations. Both of those were in the adult business category. And interestingly enough, they're both 2 farms. The Chase Home Farm in Pine Plains And that nomination was submitted by Kim Tripp from the Ankrum Conservation Advisory Council. And if you had a chance to read through her description of what the nominees' contributions are, I won't go into the whole thing, but they are a third-generation dairy farm, and it's a USDA certified organic, 100% grass-fed dairy. They have over 500 acres in Columbia and Dutchess counties. And it sounds like they have been really working hard to improve their water and their soil. They do lots of different things through intensive pasture management and a comprehensive rotational grazing system. And they are now breeding their own livestock to create a sustainable farm ecosystem. So Sarah Chase and Jonathan Schmidt, they offer public programs, both on the farm and on off-site venues, such as through the Columbia Land Conservancy. So, unless there is any question about them, I'll entertain a motion to, and I just wanted to say that at the get-go, I did go back and look through our list of previous recipients, and neither the Chase Home Farm or Little Seed Gardens, which has been nominated, and they're located in Chatham, they, to the best of my knowledge, have not been nominated before, and they certainly have not received this award. And we can have more than one winner per year per category. So if you want, I can go on and just talk more about Little Seed Farms, and then we can vote on the two of these together, which I think we've also done that in the past.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it that way? That sounds good, Terry.
Okay. So Little Seed, I'm sorry.
We don't have a quorum though for a vote.
Okay. That's true. Well,
do we have the authority to vote by email as a follow-up?
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest too. I think that's a good idea.
yeah.
Because who knows when
I
we'll
think
have a
that-
quorum.
I think that's the way. I think we've had to do that before, so I don't think that's an issue. So and so let me just finish with Little Seed Farms. That's Willie Denner and Claudia Kenny. They are the Little Seed Farms, which is in Chatham. It's a 97-acre family farm. It's certified organic. They operate it with their children. They produce vegetables, herbs, heritage breed stock, and grass-fed beef. And they've been using a holistic resource management as a decision-making model for the last 20 years. They offer on-farm mentoring to young farmers and other holistic on-site training. Willie is an accredited savory professional, and Claudia has an MS in conflict resolution with an environmental focus, and she works as the statewide director of New York State Agricultural Mediation Program. So they also help run the Agrarian Learning Center, which works to create a region of connected communities, farmers, and landowners. Managing our land base holistically to improve soil health, decrease carbon emissions, and slow climate change. And they were nominated by Kara Humphrey, one of our own ENC members representing the town of Austerlitz. So those are our two nominees. And in light of the fact that we don't have a quorum tonight on the call, with your permission and approval, I can go ahead and send out something to the entire membership, those that can vote, and ask them to reply in the affirmative for both the Chase Home Farm and Little Seed Gardens to be recipients of this year's Good Earthkeeping Awards in the adult business category. And, if that meets with everybody's approval that's on the call, I can go ahead and do that tomorrow and get that out there.
I think
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, folks,
Okay.
if I could interject, when we were, I think when Maureen was going over the roll, I don't know if Kara was actually counted in that, was she? And if not, does that bring us to?
Kara's accounted for.
Okay.
He's
I
here.
I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure in case we had quorum.
No, unfortunately, there's only 8. If you'd like, I can read the names again.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure because I know she appeared right as we were going through and calling names. I just wanted to make sure she was accounted for,
She
especially
is.
since she had nominated one of the farms.
So should we
Okay.
motion, put out and second it so we can use that, send that out to the membership?
I'm just going to send it out to the membership and ask them to react to it. I don't think we need a formal, motion to do that. We can't. We don't have the quorum tonight.
I can't make it.
Nope. So, hopefully we'll hear back from as many or all of the voting members. That would be great. The other thing, though, I will ask this group to think about, and again, we can't act on it tonight, but who knows when and if we'll be able to get together to actually present these in person. So I'd like to think about alternative means of getting them involved in the next meeting, whether they will need to Zoom in and we can do a virtual presentation to them, or whatever else we can come up with. It would be kind of neat to do it with a nice little twist. So if you want to kind of put your thinking caps on and send some ideas my way, I'm very open to that. But right now, the main thing is to just get the approval of the rest of the EMC members that aren't on the call tonight to get everybody's approval. And I'll do it in an email format. And I'll send that out tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds fine. Terry, I have a question though, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever are presently either connected with or present for the meeting that are in support of this, can you essentially count them as supporting this effort? Now, what I'm trying to do is very frankly, try to get around the quorum thing, because here in these past few months, there are a lot of communities that have voted on spending money, et cetera, and they didn't have the quorum. Now, I don't understand how they were able to do that, but they did. All right. Now, I know we're not dealing with life and death issues here, but I think that it should be relaxed, for the whole quorum requirement should be relaxed during this period. But I don't have the say in that. So if you could keep track.
Quite honestly, Ed, I don't think anybody's going to object to the 2 nominees. I mean, I didn't personally go and vet them and, check out their operation from top to bottom, but I trust the integrity of the people that nominated them. And I don't know the Chase Home Farm, but I do know Little Sea Gardens. So I am confident that both of these farms are more than worthy of this distinction. And it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I would like the members that aren't able to be on the call tonight to be able to add their voices of approval. So, that would be my only comment there.
Okay, I would second that request. How's that? Okay.
Okay. I'm going to assume everybody that is a voting member that's on the call tonight is in favor of these 2 nominations. But
yes,
for just to kind of keep everything together in terms of a paper trail, it would be really great to have everybody acknowledge that in an email that I'd send out to everybody else so that everybody can see that everybody responded. Because I'll ask people to hit reply all.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Terry, thanks again very much.
Yeah.
Very good. I don't think.
And thank you.
I don't think we're going to be at the fair this year, unfortunately, Terry.
Probably not.
That's a big disappointment. Moving on. It is for me. Moving on with F, that's the Climate Smart communities, and there are those of us that are keeping track of those communities in the county that have signed up to be a climate smart community. And there's, very frankly, there seems to be some communities that aren't enthusiastically wrapping their arms around it, which I think is a real shame. But and I don't know the Bruce, both Bruce and Kara are there, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm on. One thing is I have, if representatives from towns that are actively doing something for climate smart could notify me, I could update the website. I really have trouble keeping track, but it would be very useful if we knew what everybody was doing. Just for myself, New Lebanon passed the, I guess, I don't know, I'm losing track of the months, but last month we appointed our climate smart steering committee, and we had our first meeting, and we are actively moving forward with a bunch of things that we're planning to do and that we've already done. So we're not ignoring it. We're actually working right now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Very good.
And Austerlitz and Chatham and Ghent are all active.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And I believe Ancrum and Hudson, of course. David has something he must say.
Yeah, it's Hudson from Austerlitz, Chatham Town, Philmont. There are 2 villages, Philmont and Kinderhook Village. Copac, Ghent, Hillsdale, Kinderhook, and New Lebanon. So that's.
Could you send me that in an email? That would be
Yeah,
great.
and in fact, I was hoping, and I asked Ed, I was hoping for a few minutes to throw some slides up and some concepts up for potential strategy that we could engage in moving forward. We had talked about this previous meeting as a council to support this program throughout the county and really make some county-wide progress. I wanted to take a few minutes of people's time, and I don't know if we have that time, and I prepared some slides for that.
I think we will. If you can hold off, I think we'll have enough time.
Great.
David?
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, David. You also suggested, and people should think about it in the interim, to actually have the county become a climate county.
Yeah, I think that would be terrific also.
That's what I'm getting at. I just wanted to kind of throw some context into place for people who aren't so familiar with the program. And in fact, even with some of the latest science and policy goals of climate change itself.
Okay, all right. We wait with the date here. Okay. Citizens Climate Lobby, do we have anything to report?
Yeah. Actually, I have a request. Actually, when we initially passed the resolution, we didn't have any way of registering. What Citizens Climate Lobby does is they have a website, and you can upload endorsements. And we weren't sure how we were characterized, but we do have a facility for doing that now. But I just need actually the permission from yourself, Ed, that since you're the chairman, and I can take care of it if you give me permission to proceed.
You have my enthusiastic support.
Okay. That's all I needed, and I will work with Eleanor Saunders, and we will get that up there. I figured you would do that, but I just wanted to make it official. Thank you very much.
Very good, terrific. Thank you. Natural resource inventory. Is there any update with respect to it?
Yes, this is Terry. I have been in communication with Christine, and we have reached out. Well, in order to actually do the training now, to convert it from an in-person to a virtual format, will require the training to be revamped from the way it was currently offered. So in order to do that, we need to reach out to the 3 instructors, Gretchen and Ingrid and Don, and see, number one, how doable that is, how easy of a conversion that will be, when we think would be the best time to do it if they feel that is viable. Because one of the things I had mentioned last time is that one of the benefits of doing it in person was that everybody had a copy, a hard copy of the NRI in front of them to work off of. So this wouldn't necessarily be the case. I mean, I know it's available online, but it's a little overwhelming and maybe unwieldy for some people to do that while they're on a virtual training, unless they have a couple of screens to work with, or monitors rather. So, so she and I have been talking. I did send a note to Patrice asking for her input and some guidance from her, because you know the planning department is a big part of this going forward to hold these trainings. So we hope to pull together the NRI planning committee along with these speakers from the in-person trainings on a conference call in June sometime. We haven't set a date yet, and I'm still waiting to hear back from Patrice. So, you know, we're going to try to move forward, but most likely these will not happen until later this fall or even early winter. We might just wait till after the election to see if there's any change in people on the planning boards or the zoning boards that would like to participate. So, so we're looking at a lot of different things, and we're trying to, you know, one of the concerns going forward is, depending on how this all shakes out, what people's time constraints and funding constraints might be as, you know, other issues arise from the COVID-19 situation. So, you know, we have a lot of questions right now, and we're looking to try to get some answers.
Good, excellent. That's terrific. Thanks, Terry. Moving on, age of media reports. Now, I've listed a number of what I think are in this paragraph. One, of course, has most recent, is not the most recent, but one of the most recent, is the Norlite incinerator in Cohoes. Now, I don't know how many of you have been keeping track of that, but it's my understanding that Norlite went ahead and started to burn the material they use at airports to put out fuel fires. Okay, well, these are very persistent compounds. They're in the water. They're in people's bodies. I mean, this is insane. And this also occurred up into Rensselaer County with other facilities. That one was in Cohoes. All right. These are just examples to me. And now closer to home, we have a brownfield site right in Columbia County, and that's in Stuyvesant, down in Stuyvesant. All right. Now here the last of those that have been in there. You know, I think that the people that are operating that left us with a nice little package here, they're probably gone. But if you look at that document that I think Maureen may have up, it's what, a 15, 18 page document. And it identifies, if you look at pages 9, 10, and 11, right? Therein is some very, very critical information. And there's some specific identification of some of the compounds, the detection of dichloropropane, acetone, methylene chloride. Methylene chloride is carcinogenic, folks. All right, and it's insoluble in water. Anyway, and you know, you have to also concern yourself with the groundwater flow under the surface of the ground. You can't always tell what way it's flowing by standing over it. Okay, so that one to me is a big deal. I think the supervisor is looking for support from us to demand that the DEC exacts the most stringent cleanup possible of, very frankly, the goal should be to remove it all. Now you say that's impossible. Well, let's try to remove it all, and maybe we'll only get 4400%. But I think it's important that it be removed, and it's not going to be easy, right? And this site historically has been identified as a waste pit area. For what? What do they throw in there? you know? So, and it even goes back to when they had storage batteries. Holy smoke. You talk about heavy metals and strong acids like sulfuric acid and so forth. I mean, this is serious nonsense. And I keep going back to the TCI incident. There was nobody watching what was going on there. There was nobody watching what was going on in Stuyvesant. Okay, it's the same thing. There's nobody up in Rensselaer watching what was going on there, right? What we need is what we need to do is to write to our town code that each of these sites, once they're proposed to work with sort of chemicals, then they agree to unannounced visits by knowledgeable scientists, for God's sake. You get these PR people the heck out of here. You want people that are aware and knowledgeable in the field of science, for crying out loud. That's what we desperately need. They will fight that every bit of the way because they want no oversight. Well, that's too darn bad. The rest of us would like to have clean water and clean air. You know, that's all. That's all we want. Anyway, so that's that issue. Anyway, the other thing I would recommend to all of you that have children, grandchildren, etc., to recommend that they take science in high school. Right? Doesn't have to end there, but it sure could start there. We are faced in the United States with some of the most internationally ignorant students when it comes to science. Are we proud of that? Right? We may not be proud of it, but it's sure going to come back and kick us in the rear ends at some point. Okay. I guess that's pretty much all on that issue. And to go back to what I said in my remarks, me privately, every employment I had, periodically I was evaluated, right? So what does that add up to? That adds up to 35 years for me. I don't understand how we have so many of these industries and places of employment where there's no evaluation. There's certainly no scientific evaluation. Just drives me crazy. Anyway, sorry for getting on the soapbox. Do we have some county local health reports, Tara? We got to hear from you, Tara.
Hi, Ed. Can you hear me?
I think if you're any louder, you're going to blow my eardrum out the other side of my head.
Here, I turned my speaker off. Does that help?
Yes.
You're just fine.
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad to see who I can see on the YouTube. I couldn't get on the regular. I think my browser is probably outdated, like they were saying. So now I know what to do to fix it for next time. I just wanted to mention on the last point, I did look in the file record for Stuyvesant and found some really old documents about that Allied Health site. And it didn't at the time specify anything other than there was one chemical and the name of it escapes me. But, what it appears they're finding now is much more than what they had initially thought was there. And there wasn't anything very current in the information that I found. So I guess we'll just have to kind of keep our eyes on it. I looked on the Google Earth and tried to distinguish where there might be residential well water supplies around that site. If need be, we can get in touch with those homeowners too to do monitoring. It appears there's monitoring wells around that site already, and they generally don't like for us to contact homeowners to ask them to sample their wells and basically use their home water supply as a monitoring well if at all possible. So, but also an interesting note, I had gotten called from DEC the other day because there was a spill up in Kinderhook, and they had wanted me to come and sample the homeowner's driven point, very shallow source, and a next door neighbor that might have been impacted. And, I went up there to see what was happening and get the, information. And I found out that the Wadsworth lab is not accepting our sample submissions unless it's a health emergency, which they didn't determine that to be a health emergency. And it wasn't due to what I thought, the COVID response, that everybody in that lab may have been shifted over to doing COVID testing analysis. It's because they sent those people in that lab home. They're home working or furloughed or something, and they aren't available. So they said they would have to, call in somebody to actually do the analysis. So that was a little bit concerning that I actually couldn't take the samples that I normally would do in a spill situation. So the DEC actually had to turn to a contract lab to do that work. So that kind of ties our hands a little bit when something happens. So on another note, the PFOA regulations that are proposed are still on schedule to go into effect. There hasn't been any change at this point due to this whole COVID thing. So they're supposed to continue forward with that. As far as Roger Skokel, he's the Bureau of Public Water Supply at State Health Department. He's saying that's still on track. So trying.
Good.
Go ahead.
No, I say.
Oh, okay. As far as the COVID virus, that's pretty much all consuming for our agency at this point, but we've had 345 positive cases in the county as of this afternoon, and unfortunately up to the 27th person that's passed away from it. And a third of those cases are in the nursing homes. Unfortunately, Barnwell and Pine Haven Nursing Home have been hit particularly hard. So they've been just using us basically to go out and do quarantine checks on people who are mandated to stay home. And so we've kind of shifted from all of our regular inspections. We were doing that, all kind of just stopped. And we went into this mode of going and checking on quarantines and running people's supplies that they need if they're at home, and following up on calls with people that are going, what do I do? And, questions from business owners and, things that we're trying to figure out ourselves, and participating in calls with the State Health Department on a twice weekly basis. And we basically throw questions at them and ask for guidance, and, they answer in dribs and drabs. It's hard to get good, firm guidance back quickly because everything has to go through legal review, and that really kind of hampers, us getting information. So we're trying our best to navigate all of it.
Who's the legal review?
The State Health Department, when they put guidance together, they're trying to put guidance documents out to us, but those guidance documents have to go to their legal division for review before they're released from the agency. So they can't just, send stuff out as it's ready. It's getting tied up into their legal review office. I don't know how many things they have to review, but it's every time we're on these calls, we keep getting the answer, sit tight, hold tight. The biggest thing is we want to know if the children's camps are going to be able to operate in the county this summer or not, because the county chairman had sent in a request for them not to operate a local, just because of the logistics of it, and that a lot of these overnight camps are kids living in communal settings and in cabins and so forth. And all of those requests, those local requests for local orders, have to go to the state now for review. And that one was actually not approved. So we were assuming it was because the State Health Department or the governor was probably going to come out with some, decision on his own statewide, and they just wanted to keep it consistent or uniform, but we haven't gotten an answer yet. Many of those camps are deciding to just close on their own, or a lot of the municipalities, the funding is so cut short by all of this, they've just decided, that they can't do it. So we're just day to day. Our county's two larger events, the Hudson Flag Day Parade was canceled, and the Falcon Ridge Folk Festival, for the first time in 35 years, isn't going to operate this year. And I'm still waiting to hear on the county fair. I don't have a firm answer on that yet, but so yeah, it's just, you know,
See,
it's been a learning experience of what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are too. You know, the big wake up call that the public health infrastructure has, you know, kind of been whittled down over the years and funding streams cut, and we're pretty small.
And that's not by accident, my cynical view. That's not by accident. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I mean, look at the results and what occurred in those nursing homes. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I had come across a U.S. Health and Human Services put out a document in 2007 on planning for a pandemic outbreak, and they always assumed it would be influenza, but it said in there, you know, it could be of an unknown origin. And I mean, if you read this document, it's like a play-by-play book of what's actually occurring right now. It was like a foretelling of the whole thing, and it talked about the need for the nursing homes to have a solid plan in place, you know, when something like this were to happen, that it would just be a coordinated effort of where to move the residents that were, you know, sickened, and, you know, to try to isolate people. And, you know, it's never enough of an emergency for anybody to do that kind of thing until it's too late, you know, and it was sad to read that.
But Tara, isn't it interesting? If those, think about, let me finish for a minute. Think about those descriptions and so forth. If those folks had sent it to the lawyers first, what would it have looked like after the lawyers got through with it? You wouldn't be reading the same. You would be reading the same document, all right?
Yeah, I know.
I seriously concern myself with who, by and large, many attorneys, whose interests they're working for. Typically, it's for the dollar. That's my cynical view. Okay. I think what occurred in Valencia and elsewhere was, to me, criminal. You know, it's criminal neglect.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I think you're going to see a lot of. I pray that there's going to be a lot of change that comes from this, you know, so that it never happens that way again. But maybe people will take it more seriously. The stakeholders in those type of environments will take these things more seriously. You know, I guess people just always thought maybe it would never happen. No, that's, you know, but they've been telling us we've been overdue for a pandemic for 10 years. I mean, I remember doing a training on it was always Asian bird flu. They said in 2000 we were doing a pod or a point of distribution training drill, and we've been doing those drills for a decade now on, you know, the next pandemic. So I don't know. I also just wanted to mention the county is doing 3 more COVID testing sites, mobile testing clinics. They had one at the college week before last, and they were going to sign up 100 people just because we didn't know, you know, how it was going to go. We had never done it before like that, and it went very well. It was pretty smooth. They ended up with 80 people, I think they put through, with people that canceled or were no-shows. But they've got 3 more dates. The next one is coming up May 27th, which is actually a walk-up testing, and it's going to be right in front of the John L. Edwards School. And that's next Wednesday. Then there's one in June 2nd in Hudson, same place, John L. Edwards. And then there's a drive-through clinic coming up on June 7th at the Chatham Fairgrounds. So if anybody knows anybody that would be interested in having the testing done, or feels like they should have it done, they can go on either our website at the health department, or they can go on the health department's Facebook page. And I'm told that the Facebook page link is a little easier to navigate because there's a form that it takes you to, and you answer a bunch of questions. And then somebody, could be me, because they're having me do the callbacks on people who sign up. they'll call you and give you an appointment time and a PIN number to have with you when you arrive at the testing site. But this is just for the nasal swab right now. We don't have the antibody testing yet, but I'm sure we'll probably be doing the same thing when the antibody testing becomes more readily available. So
And more reliable.
Tara, if I might jump in there, you might mention to people that the criteria for testing has now changed quite a bit according to what the governor said. I think it was yesterday. Which broadens the category of people who would qualify, which now includes people, for example, who are potentially in contact with the public, like a grocery store cashier.
Correct.
Even people with no symptomology, but because of the way that they're potentially or actually exposed to infection, that they ought to avail themselves of the test.
Yes.
And
Yep.
isn't it also going to be available for people that are returning to work and the phased in, part? Like if you're in group one that's being phased back into going back to work, you can get the test done.
I believe so. I don't think at this point they're going to turn anybody away from having the test. I don't know how employers are going to handle it, whether they're going to require it or not. But and the nursing homes, of course, they're being mandated by the governor to do the nasal swab twice a week for all of their staff. So initially we were trying to assist them with getting them swabs, and when we got the tests available, we were bringing them out to the nursing home so that they could test the residents and the staff that they had to test, and we were running those swabs up to Wadsworth, the state lab, but Wadsworth quickly outgrew their capacity to handle them all, so now they've limited us to 50 swabs at a time, and they're having to do independent contract labs for a lot of this now because they just got overwhelmed with it, which I figured would happen at some point. So,
Is there a charge for that test, Tara?
I don't believe so. Not an upfront charge. I think they might. I don't know if they're trying to go through insurance or what they're doing. I'd have to get you a better answer on that, but I don't believe so.
The reason I ask is I've heard that some of those people are having to pay $100 for a test.
Oh, maybe if they go to the urgent or rapid care or urgent care, we were talking about that today, where people may be more apt to come to one of these clinics because it's free of charge. There's no upfront cost to it. But if they go for an urgent care visit, they might have a copay or something like that. But yeah, I'm not positive on that. I'd have to find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tara, for all your work.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, we're hanging in there, just taking it each day.
Yeah. Well, I don't
Getting our temperatures taken and wearing our masks and doing what we have to do.
Yeah. Is Anna still present?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Not that. I'm thinking Anna from my department. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. Because I think she's aware that my youngest daughter is and has been working down at Montefiore Hospital through all this.
Oh, wow.
This event. All right. And of course, we haven't seen her or her brother, who is a police chief down there close to White Plains, for maybe a month, going on 2 months. And he hasn't seen his kids for fear that he'll give them the virus. So
right.
All kinds of implications here,
Yes, definitely. A lot of hardships, and we're trying to be a resource for the people who have had their businesses closed by this too, and trying to be an assist to them as they're going to attempt to reopen when that happens. So just trying to keep on top of the best information available to give people. each day.
I talked to one of the restaurateurs here just a couple of days ago, and he says, if you let me, I said, well, restaurant, if you let me only open and have half the seats I have now, he says, I'll lose
Right.
money.
Yeah, you still have to pay staff and the insurance and all the costs associated with operating a business, but you can only allow half of the people in,
Yeah,
and that's an issue. I did have one restaurant operator who's kind of thinking ahead and wondering if they could put a tent up and have tables outside, so that they're kind of making up the difference by having them outside as opposed to inside. So, but a lot of those issues with the occupancy of these orders are being enforced by the code enforcement officers of the town, or we're being told they're supposed to be enforcing the orders. So, and that's been confusing too. This is kind of new to all of us. So we're getting a lot of those calls that people aren't seeing people wearing masks in the restaurant. And, you know, we can give a call and kind of give the heads up, but it's really on each town's code enforcement officer at this point to enforce those governor's orders, because we can only enforce the regulations under our state sanitary code unless we're given a different directive, and we haven't gotten the directive for that yet. So,
okay.
just
I'm gonna put a bug in your ear, Tara. I'm in the process of throwing out papers and documents. Guess what I ran across? Here's the title: Dutchess County Sanitary Code. There you
yes.
go. There you go.
Yep.
That's it.
The old local sanitary code rears its head again.
Yeah, well, where the hell is Columbia County anyway?
Yeah.
Here we go. All right. Some of us have been attending the DEC meetings, which I find very informative. But I don't know that there's an agency, and I certainly wouldn't put the responsibilities on the irresponsible politicians, to have a measure of the effectiveness of organizations like the DEC, EPA, and health departments, and all those agencies that are there to protect our health and the environment.
Right. And if I can break in a little bit, I think we promised David Newman that we'd give him some time to talk about what he wanted to say.
Well, he's got a half an hour. Do you think that'll be long enough?
I don't know. We'll have to keep a tight rein on it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michael. Very good. Let him roll.
Please do. Keep a tight rein. And I'm not trying to occupy more time than people are interested. I just wanted to put a little bit more detail and some ideas out from our prior discussions about how we can move forward potentially with really promoting something proactive and being relevant to the point that Ed's making in the county. And I think Climate Smart presents a great opportunity given how much good progress has been made by so many of the towns represented on the call. If you'll let me, I put a few slides together, so I'm just going to show those slides really quickly. This is going to present my entire screen, and then I'm trying to present a PowerPoint. So let me know if this works. Because okay, so you can see the screen. Let me know if you can see my PowerPoint here.
Yep, got it.
Great.
You might want to expand. There you go. Good.
Yep. Okay, great. So
now David just recognized that not everybody is tuned in with video. So I would say a note whenever you go to a new slide describing briefly what it shows.
Well, the first slide's very simple, and I don't have to dwell on it, but it is a good reminder as to what we're talking about. And when we're talking about climate change, I think we can start with the basic idea, and this goes to the science, which is what we're talking about is CO2 emissions that are trapping heat in our atmosphere and heating. Everyone mute. But as we talk to a broader people in our community, a broader group of people, I think it's important to talk about it in that way. Now, here's a complicated slide, which describes the changes in the global carbon cycle And basically, there are two things to take away from this slide. One is that we are adding about 40 or 42 gigatons of carbon per year into the atmosphere from fossil fuels and land use change. And that while the land, the biosphere, forests in particular, and the ocean is absorbing a lot of that carbon, it's still leaving an excess of 18 gigatons. A gigaton is 1 billion tons of carbon into the atmosphere every year. So just to move along, there are different ways that you can communicate about climate change. Can be very complicated for people. I'm not suggesting that we adopt this website, but I think it's a useful tool in things like this to have people interact. And I'll just go to it really quickly. Can everyone see that? So this is kind of cool. It talks about, what's happened through human history here. And you can see on the bottom, 800,000 years ago to the present, that timeline. And there you're talking about, it's a measure of the parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And as you can see, and as many people probably know, we're at a point now over 400 parts per million, which is higher than at any time in the last 800,000 years. What's cool about this website is it takes you through to the present, and it has a little clock on the, not a clock, but a thermometer on the side here, which shows you when we start having an impact in terms of emissions into the atmosphere. And obviously it didn't happen 800,000 years ago, but even 14,000 years ago when agriculture began, we weren't really having any impact, obviously. And then when the wheel was invented, that changed things a lot, but still we're not having an impact. It's not until the last 150 or 250 years or so that the industrial era that we're starting to see impacts. And you can see the thermometer on the side going up. And I'm not going to go through all of these stages of development, but you can get to the present and you can see that we've, in the last 250 years, put about 2,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So what does that mean? And this is a pretty cool slide, I thought. It's kind of fun to play with too. You can take these dots. Each dot is 5 gigatons of carbon dioxide. So it helps you understand and visualize where the carbon dioxide is coming from. You can see that through history, cumulatively, a lot of it's come from land use change, which is very relevant to Columbia County because we can be a source of solutions here that deal with land use change and forestry, more so than some of the other emissions that are at the bottom. You can also toggle here and see the actual 2018 emissions, and you can see that land use change is relatively a smaller amount relative to coal, oil, gas, and other fossil fuels. As an aside, last week, I just read an article saying that renewables has overtaken coal as a source of electricity in the US over the last, so far this year. And that seems like a durable change, at least in the US, but globally it's a different story. So you can move on, you can see kind of which parts of the world are having the biggest impact. And you can see that North America and Europe have produced about half of all historic carbon that's been put into the atmosphere. And we represent in these two areas of the world only a smaller fraction than half, certainly, of the world's population. And you can see that in 2018, the influence of Asian countries is growing. Where does it go? And this is the point before, whereas in 2018, most of it, or a lot of it rather, was going into the atmosphere. But if not for the ocean and the sequestration on land, we'd be dealing with a much more rapidly changing climate, and we already are. So those sinks are very, very important. And I think in terms of solutions, land use change, positive land use change, forestry, reforestation, and sustainable agriculture represent things like silvopasture, real opportunities for much of the world, and we can be a model here. So that's the gist of that. And then you can get into the scenarios of the impacts of the future. So here we are at the present, and then you can look at where we're going by moving this up and different scenarios lead to different impacts and consequences. This first scenario is kind of the best case scenario where we get our act in gear right away and we start reducing our carbon emissions to meet the Paris Agreement or even beyond. And you can see there's already a temperature rise and there are already consequences of this type of thing. Sea level rise that is already baked in, significant impact on coral reefs and marine ecosystems, and significant impacts in both the Arctic and Antarctic ecosystems. You can look at land and the impact on farming and forests and atmosphere and weather as well. I'm not going to do that. But the interesting thing is you can toggle here at the bottom and you can look at different scenarios that go all the way to probably a worst case scenario, and the impacts change. So this is an interesting tool, I think, to teach people. But let me get back to the point at hand, because I know I don't have a lot of time and I'm on a short leash. The carbon budget here, and there are different ways of us conveying the impacts that don't need to be global. We can be talking much more specifically, and I think we should, about Columbia County or the Hudson River Valley or this part of the world, to really bring it home to people in terms of impacts and in terms of solutions. But the carbon budget is a different way of thinking about how we limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is what the Paris Agreement is targeting, which is the kind of best case scenario of the ones I just showed. Of the over 2,000 gigatons of carbon that we've released into the atmosphere over historically, we have about 336, give or take, gigatons remaining at the end of last year for what the International Panel on Climate Change believes is a 66% probability of achieving or limiting the rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we burned at current levels 42 gigatons a year and we didn't do any additional reductions, we would have 8 years left to stay within that budget. Of course, we hopefully will continue to make progress and rapidly accelerate that progress so that we can get to that point over a longer period of time than 8 years, but we don't have a lot of time. And so that's why the Paris Agreement and the New York State law both target reductions on the order of about 40% below 2010 levels by 2030 and net zero by 2050. I won't go into this, but we can. This is the New York Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which was passed last year, which again targets the aims for these targets with carbon neutral by 2050, with an 85% reduction in emissions and 15% in verifiable permanent additional offsets. And those are very specific, but some of those could be relevant to our county again. Changes in land use change, agriculture, forestry, and protection of existing forests. Things like biochar, and I could go on. And there are other provisions which deal with the amount of production of electricity from renewables. There's a lot of focus on equity so that the law's benefits help disadvantaged communities, and we don't see certain siting that are disadvantaged or that lead to greater disadvantages in those communities. There's a Climate Action Council, which is how the law is set up to work, a 22-person body to create a scoping plan by 2021. Now, the New York Climate Smart Program, I just have this slide and one more slide. So thanks for bearing with me. It's a framework for organizing local climate action. Most people on the call know that. The benefits of the program include funding opportunities, trainings, tools, some guidance and networking. And the community benefits, which we need to convey to people, include cost savings, efficiency, greater efficiencies and energy use and independence, reduced pollution, smart growth opportunities, enhanced conservation and ecological restoration, greater health benefits to our community, and reduced risks, of course, of long-term climate impacts through mitigation, but also through how we adapt and how we can deal with what is coming our way better. Green investments and engaging our community members and our neighbors. So I don't profess to know what we should be doing as an EMC, as a council. I just think we need to be doing something more than just talking about problems or, commiserating on how ineffective so many of the agencies that are out there are. And I think we have a really good opportunity here to do something innovative. It's not new. I mean, most of the surrounding counties have done this already. They've done countywide climate smart programs, but we could do something really special here. So, basically, the action steps here for Climate Smart itself include building a community, which is a task force, a coordinator, and partnerships, doing a greenhouse gas inventory, setting goals, creating a climate action plan, decreasing energy use and increasing renewables, and then looking at materials use and waste reduction, improved land use, conservation, and ecological restoration, and then looking at community resilience and green economics, and through this, hopefully informing and inspiring the community and creating a better spirit of collective action that we can solve some of the problems that are facing us these days. In Columbia County, we have 9, as I mentioned earlier, 9 of 19 towns, and 2 of the 4 villages have adopted climate smart resolutions. I think we, either collectively as a council or those of us that are interested or those towns that have already signed on or some combination thereof, should advocate for all towns and villages to join. We should advocate for each town to formally push the county to join. And we should think about organizing tools like sign-on letters from local businesses and other influencers, and talking about the impacts, the threats, and the benefits of going this route and doing something proactive. We would, of course, and should create a climate smart task force that's countywide. And I think we should do that as a collection of towns if we are having trouble or it takes us a long time to get the county to sign on, so that we're coordinated. These towns are coordinated, and we could obtain funding for additional support. I've talked to funders about this. I'm confident we could obtain funding for a climate smart coordinator or organizer that's in the county that could work with the towns that are signing on to help support their efforts and to help organize them to work more collaboratively, and also to work with the county eventually, and develop an action plan for the county or the collection of towns if the county doesn't take action anytime soon, and ultimately move to a greenhouse gas inventory and an action plan. So thanks for your time. I know that was a lot of information, but I didn't want to take too much time.
No, that's excellent. Thank you very much, David. Very good.
I think we should, I think this is great, but if we just talk about it and leave it there, I think what we should do is actually schedule people that are interested to meet online, obviously, in the next couple of weeks. And because I know that, that's one of the things we've been talking about is working with other towns. So if because for the mechanism for the county to do it, I guess a supervisor would have to raise it. And what happened? He's off. Is David still on? Oh, no,
I'm
okay.
on.
Yeah.
I took off the presentation, but I can put it back.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. I just think we should come up with a next step today, because if we don't, we're not going to. So
good point. Good
I
point,
second that.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, even, since you don't have to go anywhere, we just get on the phone and talk for an hour or two and come up with specific steps, because this was a great presentation, but I think we need to take the next step and actually organize this.
Yeah, sounds good.
David, can you make those slides available to everybody?
Absolutely. I'll
Thank
email
you.
to Maureen, I guess. Is that the best one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure it gets to the whole list. I'm not sure I have the whole list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So
Yes, I'll look for that email, David. Thank you.
Sure.
And those that really sincerely have an interest, maybe they could contact Bruce.
Okay. I have enough trouble with my own town, but it's okay.
Bruce, that's the way it works.
Oh, okay. I was thinking more David, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he's willing to give you a hand.
Yeah.
break them in easy.
Yeah, break me in.
Ed,
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Maybe
Dave.
we could just see whoever is on the call now would be interested in participating in an initial conversation.
How do we do that?
email me
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
or both of us.
okay.
And I think we should set up a committee of those that are interested on the call to work on this. It doesn't need to be limited to the EMC. I'm just looking, I think there's an opportunity, a natural opportunity for the EMC to play a relevant role here.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to involve the EMC. The EMC is not interested or prepared to take any kind of collective action or doesn't think it's within its wheelhouse to do that. We can just continue working as a collection of towns that are already working.
Yeah, that occurs to me, given the nature of Columbia County government to be the most viable path forward, is to create a coalition of the towns who are already climate smart community enrolled, who already have a body of people in them who have been working on this issue and would appreciate some discussion amongst them to see where we can go collectively in addition to in each of our respective towns.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely the place to start, is to work with the people that are already, whether they're on this call or not, that are already working on climate smart in those towns. I don't think, and I'm new to this county, I've only been here about 7 years, but maybe I've not lost my sense of optimism, but I do feel like we shouldn't concede. I'm not saying you're saying this, Michael, but we shouldn't concede that to get enough.
We lost that last phrase of yours, David. You broke up.
Saying that I know you're not saying that we should concede that the county effort isn't, it won't bear fruit, but I know there's also a natural skepticism that will get there quickly, if at all, and borne out by history. But I think with enough support, a focus, and enough outside pressure, I don't see why we couldn't get there. But maybe I'm just naive for being a new. Either way, we can move forward as a collection of towns. It would be stronger to do it as a county and to have as many towns joining officially, and we would benefit more resources, funding opportunities, I think. But so next steps, Bruce. Does anyone have a specific proposal? I can make one.
Well, I would say that we have another call specifically on this issue with everyone that's interested. So I think if you send out an email tomorrow or today and to everyone on the EMC and just say, is your town interested in joining up? I mean, specifically to the climate smart towns, but people can help even if they're not. And let's just propose that anyone who's interested get together for, an hour and a half call,
Great.
10 days or something like that. That would be my proposal.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. Good job, folks. Okay, moving along, we're slowly approaching the time when the coach turns back into a pumpkin, I guess. Any members have any comments, any thoughts about events, etc.? No? Certainly this virus has put a monstrous block, if you will, on most of our lifestyles, that's for sure.
Ed?
Yes.
Ed, this is Terry. I have been converting some of my direct programs that I've been offering to online versions via Zoom. We're still using a Zoom format through Cornell, and I know there's new security measures in place that will prevent against Zoom bombing and all of those things. I've not encountered those in any of the Zooms I've been involved with. But I'm offering, there's a lot of background noise. I don't know how easy it is to hear me. I'm offering an Adopt a Zero Waste Lifestyle program. It's going to be a Zoom program on Thursday, May 28th from 6:30 to 7:30 in the evening. I'll send a notice out to everybody on this call. if you could promote it through your towns, that would be great. And it's geared to residential. It's got a residential focus. So I did offer this class at North Chatham Library earlier this year, and it was very well received. Several members of the EMC were there for that class. So now I'm offering it out into the community. So,
Oh, good.
yeah. So, look for that. I'll send it out tomorrow too.
Excellent. Very good, Terry. Thank you very much. Anybody, anything else? Okay. Hearing no other suggestions, comments, concerns, I think maybe we could draw this meeting to a close. Thank all of those that, again, that supported it and brought it together and made it come off. And I hope we can even achieve greater success next time. So thank you all. Have a good evening. Be careful.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Maureen.
much.
Thanks, Oswaldo. Thanks,
welcome.
Ed.
All right.
Stay healthy.
Yes. good
Everybody
show,
stay
everybody.
well.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Yes, you too. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Michael.
You too, Maureen.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Welcome. Thank you.
Bye.